Well, the response to the US election looks very much like the response to the Brexit vote in the UK. Markets will be hanging on Donald Trump's every word and appointment. The federal government has been careful not to raise concerns about the possible trade implications, but the farming lobby is now worried the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement will be torn up. Here's finance correspondent Philip Lasker.
It wasn't all celebrations after Donald Trump's victory.
Racist, sexist, anti-gay, Donald Trump, go away!
The financial markets realised it was too soon to panic about the unknown. Rather, investors found some encouragement from the moderate tone in Donald Trump's victory speech and his promise to stimulate growth.
His comments around infrastructure and stimulating the U.S. economy was really what got people excited from a global markets perspective.
If you think of really what were the key elements of President Trump's policies that he's going to have the best chance of implementing, they all point in the direction of higher spending.
It boosted equity markets, but it also boosted bond rates.
If you do see a greater stimulus coming out of a Trump administration, coupled with trade protectionism, that's pretty inflationary. And it might mean the Fed would have to put up interest rates a bit more.
Asia, including Australia, could be major casualties if Donald Trump makes good on his threat to tear up trade deals and brand China a currency manipulator. It would allow him to slap a 45% tariff on Chinese goods, possibly triggering a trade war. The United States and China are the world's two biggest trading nations, accounting for almost a quarter of global trade, worth an estimated $860 billion. The US is China's biggest customer. Nearly 20% of Chinese exports go to the US, while China is by far Australia's biggest customer, buying a third of all our exports. A trade war between our two biggest trading partners is a disaster scenario, but there are common interests which go beyond China's manufacture of Donald Trump masks, which suggests it won't happen.
China is a huge investor in U.S. bonds, and the U.S. is a huge consumer of what China produces, and that economic model is very, very sticky. And I think the principle of mutually assured destruction, if there was a big trade war, probably keeps that going.
But one deal that could be torn up is the yet-to-be-ratified Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's a major concern for the farming lobby.
Well, there are good outcomes in the TPP for red meat, for grains, for dairy, for rice and other commodities. So it'd be disappointing for Australian agriculture if that doesn't go ahead.
But trade expert Alan Oxley says the TPP isn't dead, just delayed.
With Mexico, and Mexico's a signatory in the TPP agreement, and I think he'd want to see some adjustment to that if that was to proceed. So I think it's a matter of just waiting for the dust to settle.
That's exactly what the government's doing, without offering anything more than comforting words.
I think it's important that people don't start hyperventilating. The fact is that we have a great trading relationship with the United States. We have a great relationship, full stop, with the United States. I'm very confident that we'll continue to engage fulsomely. I don't believe that a Trump presidency is going to mean, as I said, that the United States withdraws from the world. That won't be the case.
Alan Oxley was also playing down the prospect of a full-blown trade war between China and the US.
Well, they'd sit around the table and discuss the common interests. So if Trump wants to increase some tariffs on some Chinese imports, which he's talking about, China would probably seek some form of compensation. That would be leverage for China, probably on steel issues.
The finance sector and policymakers are hoping the Donald Trump seen on the hustings won't be the Donald Trump in the White House.
We shouldn't assume that we're about to go into a big global trade war, especially with the president-elect, who is also a business person and has plenty of both supporters but also close allies who would not be keen in going that direction.
Not my president! Not my president!
But the big question is, will he listen?